participation in these meetings, and I'm glad to see it continuing. We have a brief technical overview for the WebEx process. Diane, were you going to be giving that?
Yes.
Okay.
So some folks have not been some of these meetings before. You might be have experienced Zoom meetings, and we're using WebEx. It's similar, but it's not quite the same. And so I'm going to mute as many people as I can, except for me, because I'm speaking right now. And it's important that we keep ourselves muted unless we're speaking, because the background noise can be really intense. And also I would suggest that you, and to also keep interference down, please turn off anything that's using Wi-Fi. If your cell phone uses Wi-Fi, turn that off or turn off the Wi-Fi, because it interferes and causes background noise on these systems. So that's a very important part of this. It's also important to sign on to these meetings either with your computer or with your cell phone, but not both, if you can possibly do that. And so we have, I'm talking and I'm looking at the same time and trying to keep all the new people muted as they're joining. That's what's going on here. And so then we have a chat in the bottom right corner. You'll see a chat button, and if you open that up, that we can chat to each other. Everyone has access to this, and you can copy and paste things from the chat to your computer, or I believe to your cell phone. I'm not sure if that's possible. I always do this on a computer. And so that'll be important, because we're going to be giving links and so forth in the chat tonight, and so you might want to copy and paste some of those links. Okay, and there we go. Back to you, David. I'm going to unmute you, and your turn. So, David, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, all. Thank you all for joining us. This is our 4th official Community Council meeting, and it's going to be an interesting one tonight. We're going to have all the people who are, well, all the people who are present and running for the board can give a brief introduction. And also we're going to have a discussion about the charter amendments. Bailey DeYoung, our own from the island, is going to be presenting an informative presentation, and then she will be speaking in favor of the charter amendments, and the sheriff is going to join us at about 8 o'clock to speak against the charter amendments 5 and 6, which would make her position no longer an elected position. So with that, I would like to know if everyone has had an opportunity to review. Well, everyone has had an opportunity to review the agenda, which from last month's meeting, which has been posted on the website and also has been emailed to all those involved. Is there anyone who has any objection to the agenda as it's currently constituted, written? Okay. Now, I'll also keep the chat function open so that if people wanted to, pass a chat along, you could do that. One thing that I'd like to make very clear, we're going to have the King County Sheriff as a guest today, and there are people who may have very strong feelings one way or the other about the sheriff's office. Just like a few meetings ago, we had some people with strong feelings about the Port of Seattle, and they expressed themselves in an inappropriate manner on the chat function, where they were speaking disrespectfully about people who we've invited to speak at our meeting. That doesn't do anyone any good, because not only does it offend people who are joining us, but we lose credibility as an organization if we allow that to happen. So I don't want to have to say anything further about it, but please keep your remarks and keep your chat polite. And anytime we have a discussion in the community council, that's the plan, is that it should be a polite discussion. It can get heated, but as long as it's respectful, it's okay. We also have the agenda, and that's been posted on the website and also circulated. And I'd like to know if there's anyone who had changes that need to be made to the agenda. So if you do, you could indicate that in the chat or raise your hand so that I could see you. But I don't see any people at this point that have opposition to the agenda.
David, Kyle Britz has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. Let me see. Kyle.
Unmute yourself.
Yes.
Kyle Britz, not exactly opposition, just point of clarification. It'd be nice if we had the timeframes known in advance or for future agendas to include the times. So knowing that we had like the guest speaker on at a specific time, then it just helps us all hold each other accountable for the timelines. But otherwise, it's approved. Clarification.
Okay, I think that's a good comment. Sometimes we're not able to keep to those time frames, but it is a good thing to aspire toward. Okay.
You guys are doing something on Friday?
The seeing no opposition to the agenda, then I will approve the agenda, and we can go on to the nitty-gritty of our meeting today, which is to meet the board candidate. Oh, excuse me.
Not yet. We have minutes.
Not yet. We have a presentation about the board election itself. And so I believe it's Adam.
No, David, we have to back up. We have to approve the minutes of the September meeting.
Oh, I thought I had already done that.
You just did the agenda. You never mentioned the minutes.
The minute, okay, well, I thought I had mentioned it earlier, Diane, but maybe you were on mute. In any event, the minutes had been circulated. The minutes were also available on the website. And I wanted to know if anyone who did review these minutes had any objection to these minutes. And I'll check the chat site, and I can't see everyone at the meeting all at once, but I don't see any objection. So seeing no objection, I will approve the minutes. Who is giving our presentation on the election committee?
That's supposed to be Dan Schuler. Dan is here, and Dan, I will make you the presenter. And Dan, you will, okay, you're ready to go.
Okay.
Needs to be unmuted.
He is unmuted.
Yeah, I think he needs to just turn up the volume.
Oh, Dan, we're not able to hear you. This is kind of like the problem we had last night. So if you can figure out some way to get your sound on, right now we can't hear you at all. And I'm just going to keep shaking my head until I hear you.
Dan, if you have a volume control at the bottom of your screen on the right, you should see if you can use that to bring your volume level up.
can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes.
What
Okay.
did you do to change that, Dan?
No, I went to the microphone settings and increased it all the way to the top.
Oh,
So,
okay.
sorry about that. I that's why we were doing the test yesterday, but nobody told me yesterday they couldn't hear me. So at any rate, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for taking part in this. We now have something, either 13 or 14 candidates running for the board for 7 positions. So that's great. We are using a form of ranked choice voting called single transferable vote, and also, also subtitled as a Scottish version of single transferable vote. There are people all over the world that are using various systems to do ranked choice voting. And ranked choice voting is used we're using it because we want to be as inclusive as we can. So if you're in a certain part of the community that has a constituency that might not be represented by like super mainstream people, you're more likely to be represented because your community will support you. And so you will basically, bubble up in this kind of an election to be represented. So it's also considered a form of proportional representation. So that's why we're using it for this. We also used it a number of years ago for the last election or two that the original community council held. And this election committee has consisted of Terry Sullivan, Melvin Mackey, and myself. And Melvin and I worked on the community council meeting elections many years ago. So we've been doing this for a while, and we've made some executive, decisions about exactly how this is going to take place. And but first of all, before that, we really need people to go to the website, to VMICC.net, and register themselves to vote. It's obviously not an official government election. It's a community election, and it's a more like a nonprofit election in this pandemic era. And so we need people to go out and register on VMICC.net. The link to do that is right on the left-hand side of the screen. And I suppose I can share. Can I share my screen yet? I don't see a link that lets me do that, Diane. Where would I find that?
Okay, you find that at the bottom.
Now I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, now I see it. So if I were to share my screen and go to my other window, can everybody see that now?
It takes time. Not yet. I'll tell you when we can see it. It
Okay.
takes a long time for these things to come through.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, I see. How about now?
It's coming. Here it is. We've got it.
Okay.
There you go, Dan.
If you can see it now, you can see that we have, I just recently posted the currently running candidates that is updated as of this evening. And then right here, there's a link that says register to vote. And if you click on that link, or the more vote, I'm sorry, but with this, or the design of the website right now, you have to click twice to get to the actual registration. But at any rate, the ones with red stars are all required, which is pretty much every field. So please fill this all out. And if you could check these 2 check boxes down at the bottom to make sure that we know if you want to be on the newsletter list, and that you have to affirm that you are a resident and will be 16 years of age on November 3rd. So then besides that, what'll happen is that there's a little bit of feedback right then. That frankly might not be the best language that we could have used, but please forgive us and realize that it turns out we can't edit that language once the election starts. So you'll get a little bit of feedback, and then what'll happen is that you will get an email from the voting system once the election opens, which is on October 22nd. So and 3 days from now, if you've registered by then, you will get a link in an email that you can then go use to vote. And when you get that, what you'll get, I'll show you the sort of preliminary. Now you should see the OPA vote itself right here. Is that correct? Does everybody see that? Can everybody see that?
I'm not sure what oh yeah, it's OPA vote. Yes, we can see
Okay,
that.
so we're on the OPA vote page, and this page right here is what the election will look like. You'll get to this VMICC Board Election 2020 page, and there will actually be some Spanish language underneath this first paragraph, and then otherwise it's fairly simple to vote. What you want to do is, if you have any desire to vote for Minnie Mouse, for example, any of the characters that you are any of the candidates that you want to elect. Right now they're characters. They'll eventually be candidates. You click on add, that you want to add them to your list, and then and it doesn't matter what order you add them in. You can add them in any order at all. And then if you choose to change your mind, like if you say you'd really rather have Catwoman on top, your favorite person is Catwoman, then you just click and drag that person into the position that you want them in. Does anybody have any questions about that? Is that pretty clear?
I'd like to know how many people you can vote for.
You'll be able to vote for all of the people if you want them in any, once you run out of candidates, it won't allow you to add more. So there will be whatever it is, 13 or 14 or 15 candidates. You can add as many or as few as you want. So if the only one you like is Catwoman, you can have Catwoman on there and that's all. And then once it doesn't matter at first what order you put them in. Your vote will only count once you finally click on this vote button down at the bottom. So you can drag them around as much as you want until you have them in the order that you like. So for example, if I say I really don't like Minnie Mouse that much, I'm going to drag her down to the bottom, and then she will appear at whatever the bottom of your list is. Does that make sense to everybody?
Does.
Okay. Then at that point, you'll click the vote button and you'll come to our finishing page. Somebody's doing something strange. I hope it's not me. Strange. There was some sort of feedback there, so I stopped the sharing in case it was me. But at any rate, it's fairly straightforward or fairly simple. You just click and drag and click the vote button. And the other part of the election is that we will be having ballots at the customer service counters at both Thriftway and IGA that should be available no later than Friday. And should answer your earlier question, Diane. I'm not sure. I was busy working hard all day on another community project, so I didn't have much time this evening. But at any rate, Friday, we should have the ballots all ready for you to fill out if you'd rather. We'd prefer that you vote online if at all possible. And are there any other questions about what we're doing here? Or Melvin, did I miss anything?
I'd just add that when you're putting those candidates over in that column, the one at the top is your first preference, the next one down is your second preference, and so forth. And the one at the bottom is your last preference. And you can vote for one, or you can put one in that list, or all of them, or any number in between. But the more of those that you select, the less you will waste your vote. So if you vote only for one and that one gets twice as many as they need, basically only half of your vote gets used and you waste half of it that could have gone to your next choice. So that's kind of how it works.
And yeah, feel free to put as many candidates as you want, including all of them on there.
Dan?
Yes.
Does it add strength to your vote for one person if you were to vote for just one and no one else?
No, I don't believe it does. As long as you put if you have that one person that is your favorite and you put them at the top, that is the best you can do for that person. Then, and anybody else you vote for does not diminish from the person that you voted for at the top. They'll get your vote first.
Okay.
And as I said, this is all in the interest of fairness to everybody concerned, that we include as many people as we can. And at this point, it looks like, you're only going to get half of your choices. So,
All right.
Okay, I think, is that enough? Is that close enough for everybody? Does everybody understand that? Is there any confusion about this?
Looks pretty good. Oh, Dan, how do we know that our vote has been received?
There's a feedback page at the end of it that shows you that you voted. And that was one other thing I meant to mention, and that is, please don't vote with both a paper ballot and an online ballot. And if you get a paper ballot, only get one. And there is one other thing I forgot, and that is that if there are two people at your house that share the same email address, you can fill out a voter application using the same email address for two people, and we will automatically send you a voting code for the second person to be able to vote. One of you will be, whoever has registered first at that email address, will be able to vote the main one, and then we'll send a code to the second person to vote. But once again, please vote just once. And if since we're doing this by email, you will only be allowed normally to vote once with an email. If you have two people using the same email, we will send them a code to vote using that same email address. And the other thing is that if you make a mistake on your ballot when you vote it, there's not much we can do about it. So be clear about who you wanted your favorite is when you're voting.
Let me just add one thing. If you have two people sharing one email address, you have to register both of them with a different name on that email address, so we can tell that it's two different people.
Yeah, and if you have
two registrations,
more than two people sharing an email address, one, I think that'd be highly unusual, but two, I'm afraid there's not a whole lot we can do about it. So maybe they should register another email address or something.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Melvin. Now we can move on to our candidates. And to introduce the candidates, Adam Foster, who's on our nominations committee, will be introducing the candidates. So Adam, if you could do that, we're going in alphabetical order.
Right, by last name.
By last name.
Okay, and so is the website, I'm going to be pulling the names off of the website. The website's all up to date, correct?
It's up to date, correct.
Okay, great. So, all right, well, welcome everybody. And so this is what the format's going to be for the nominees to speak tonight. My name's Adam Foster again, and I work with the VMICC Nominations Committee. Now, tonight, each nominee for the VICC's Board of Directors will be given an opportunity to introduce themselves to the community. Nominees will speak in alphabetical order by last name. Each nominee will be given 2 to 3 minutes with a warning from the moderator when they only have 15 seconds remaining. The community will not be able to ask questions of the nominees at tonight's meeting. However, questions can be submitted to the nominees through the council's website at vmicc.net. Also, please do not ask questions of the nominees in the chat function. And now, without further ado, the nominees. And so let's see where our first nominee here is going to be. It looks like it's going to be John Affolter. And I know I probably mispronounced that. I'm really sorry, John.
That's pretty good.
So John, whenever you're ready, I'll start the timer. We're getting a lot of feedback from you, John.
What do I need to do?
John, if you have a cell phone that's turned on, and you turn off the cell phone, if there's anything that's using Wi-Fi near you or in the next room, turn it off. shut down other people's, anyone else's laptop to try to help with this? Oh, John, I have you signed on twice to this meeting. That's a problem. You're going to have to sign off on one of yours.
How do I do that?
You have to, the bottom of the page, it says end the meeting or leave the meeting. You need to leave the meeting. Leave one of you needs to leave the meetings. And I don't know if you're signed on with so if you both of these are with a laptop or a computer, just leave the meeting with one of them. And maybe I can kick you out. I'm going to try that.
Oh, there we are.
Okay, John, he's gone from both of them now. Oh boy.
Well, perhaps we could move to the next candidate and then go back to John.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I could see no video of him either.
So are we ready to move on to the next candidate? We'll come back to John whenever he gets his text situated.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next candidate we have is Tara Bruce. And once again, if I mispronounce your name, I'm really sorry. So Tara, whenever you're ready to start, and I'll start the timer whenever you're ready.
Is Tara on?
Tara's not on the call anymore.
So we lost Tara?
Yep.
Okay, well, maybe Tara will be back. We'll just move on to the next nominee until we have Tara back.
Okay.
So next nominee is going to be C. Hunter Davis.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can. That's excellent audio.
Okay. Tell me when to go.
Whenever you're ready.
Well, as you said, my name is Hunter Davis, and it's really great to be here and to learn of all the many talented Islanders that are giving their efforts to the Community Council. Community, that's what I love about Vashon, that people are willing to step up and make this a true community, be it a place where an opera company is, a rowing club, and a community council. Vashon is a jewel, and I want to participate in ensuring that it shines for all of us and meets the needs and the desires of all current beings, be they human, animal, plant, bird, or stone, both currently and for future generations. And I think the Community Council is a great place to do this. I think I'm a good candidate because I'm a diligent worker, a good listener, and I enjoy working collaboratively. In another life, I headed up a mediation arbitration program that resolved disputes between businesses and consumers. Here on Vashon, I've lived for 40 years with my partner, a beekeeping musician and former computer nerd. And he and I, well, they raised us 3 children, 7 cats, 3 dogs, several innumerable chickens and bees, and a couple of horses. We renovated a house, and we've attempted an annual garden. I've been fortunate enough to serve on the board of the Heritage Museum, Partners in Education, the Harbor School, Vashon Allied Arts, the Vestry of the Episcopal Church, and I've also been involved with a group of Spanish-speaking people who are learning English as a second language, the Paradise Ridge Horse World, families with Korean adoptees, Beach Naturalists, Audubon, Interfaith Council on Homelessness, and years ago on the Diversity Committee with Bailey DeYoung. My passions are gardening as well as creative writing and anything or everything that's outside people and learning. For 3 years in college, I was part of the Student Governing Council, and I hope you'll consider giving a vote for me, but mostly I hope you'll consider supporting the Community Council. Back in 1925, in a newspaper I was reading recently, there was a quote. It's a little out of context, but it says, "We want to help ourselves by helping and serving the people of Vashon." And that's what I think this Community Council is trying to do. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you very much. That was excellent. So, okay, so let's move on to our next candidate here.
Oh, we could go back to John Affolter, who's back
Yeah,
on.
I saw that he was back. So, John, how are you doing with your tech?
John, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, how's that?
That's
Good.
so much better.
Good.
All right.
Okay, so John, whenever you're ready, I'll start the timer. Oh.
Resident on 1987. My wife and I came here then. I've been connected to the community in a historical sense, in that we built our home on the McDonald property. So I immediately became involved with the history of Vashon. I have been working with the community council when it was going, before it stopped. I was part of the community council when Terry Sullivan, John Burke, and I formed a subcommittee to look into the problem of teenagers on the island, which resulted in the formation of a nonprofit teen center, where we partnered with the newly formed Vashon Parks District and went to the King County Parks to have them sign over Park to us, on which I got a $60,000 grant to go and rehabilitate the main meeting room. Oops, my image froze, but you can still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was, at that same time, I was also a Democratic PCO for the Dolphin District for 2 years. As a result of all that interactivity, I was invited on to become a board member of the Washington State Health and Safety Network, where the state was trying to look for indicators that related to a healthy community. And it resulted in a huge publication after 2 years' work on that. I also served a brief time on the Vashon Clinic Advisory Board when the clinic was in the very beginning stages of trying to find a way to fund itself. It only went for about 3 months, and then they finally found a partner, and then our committee was dissolved. And also, I've been involved with youth-oriented athletics on the island. I founded the Vashon Swim Seal Club, and was their head coach for some 8-10 years. And currently, I am a park steward for the Winghaven Park area, where me and some neighbors sort of volunteered to sort of keep an eye on the place and do things. So my job is mostly ivy mitigation. I think the Vashon Community Council is a great place. I had a lot of fun
15
working
seconds.
and whether I become a board member or not, I plan on being an active participant in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Okay, so I think maybe we should put another shout out to Tara Bruce to see if she's back in the meeting by any chance. Anybody? Tara? No? Okay, so still not here. So I think the next person on the list here is Adam Day. So Adam, whenever you're ready, go ahead and I'll start the timer.
All right. Diane doesn't get to go before me?
Nope.
No, Emerson's after.
My husband and I are newish at the island, so under 20 years. We have a few farm animals, a dog, and a working cat from the Cats R Us program. I'd highly recommend it if you have a mouse problem. I'm a lifelong Washington resident, and I have a bachelor's degree from Western Washington University. I've worked in the state senate for the last decade. Last fall, I got together with another island resident, and we created a radio show on Voice of Vashon called New Kids on the Rock, where we pair new island residents with longtime island residents. I'd highly suggest giving it a listen. We cover all sorts of topics like what to do if you accidentally hit a deer or where to get milk after 9 p.m. For the past few months, I've also been volunteering on the Community Council's Communications Committee. My goal as a board member to be help to island residents amplify their voice to elected leaders. Having worked in government for more than a decade, I think my connections to elected leaders could really help our organization. And I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and I'm on the younger side of Vashon's average age, which I'm reminded of every time I drive past that sign. I also think that's important for getting more young people involved in community organizations like this. I think it's a huge problem that people who live on the island, the choices that are made for the island are made by people who don't live here on the King County Council and the state level. I think that as a community, we really have to band together in order to counter that problem. And I think this organization could really be helpful for that. I'd love your vote, but I'd also like people to consider prioritizing women and people of color before me in their ranked choice voting, because it's important that underrepresented groups are elevated in powerful positions. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Adam. Now let's see. Next on our list we have Diane. You're up, Diane Emerson.
Okay.
Ready, I'll start the timer.
I'm ready. So most of my life was spent in Minnesota. I have a bachelor's degree in food science and technology and an MBA, both from the University of Minnesota. I worked 17 years in the specialty chemical industry, where I became director of marketing for H.B. Fuller Company. It's a Fortune 500 adhesive manufacturer. I also served several boards, and I quit that life. I quit that life to travel, then became a business consultant for small businesses. And after that, I spent 7 years volunteering in the USA, New Zealand, France, and India for peace, human services, and environmental causes. I arrived on Vashon in 2013 to help create an intentional community around permaculture and nonviolent communication. While I was helping with that, I met an islander, my Lori, and we married in 2014. Together, we run Garden Green. It's an effort to help people garden organically and a small plant nursery of native and medicinal plants. And I also have my own landscape gardening business. Michael told me about Vashon's former community council. It really sounded like something we needed to have on the island. So when David Vogel wrote an opinion piece in the Beachcomber inviting the community to help reform it, I was in right away. This is my only volunteer effort. It's that important to me. So far, I've helped create the bylaws and policies, promoted the meetings, taken many minutes, co-managed the email lists, and have hosted many of the virtual meetings on WebEx. I have strong connections to the environmental sector between the Garden Green effort and membership in Vega, the Fruit Club, the Garden Club, and more. In my first year on Vashon, I generated no waste, only recycling and some eco-bricks. Last year, I organized both a community forum on pesticides and the recycling effort for the Strawberry Festival. Our team washed out and sorted recycling right on the street. I also have a strong business community. I'm an active member of the chamber, and buying local is I'm politically progressive and would personally support community efforts toward a living wage, affordable housing, addressing climate change, and keeping us an island. Finally, my training in nonviolent communication will help when things get heated. Thank you for your vote.
All right, thank you, Diane. So the next person we have on our list here is Dawn Hilton, or Hilton. I'm not exactly sure. Dawn, are you here?
I am here.
Okay, the show is yours.
I think that I am the newest here on the island. I've only been here since the end of August, actually. I've recently purchased my home in Paradise Cove, closed on August 25th and moved in on August 29th. So I'm very new to Vashon. And I was looking at the website and saw that the committee was being restarted and there were not a lot of people running for it. And I thought, why not give it a shot? Partly due to the fact that I have a passion for people, and it's an opportunity to be a voice for people of color in the island. Know that there's a small population here, so I'm looking forward to working as a team with those who are on the board as well, to be a voice for them and to come together and make those changes that will be sustainable over the years for the diverse community that we're welcoming here on Vashon. So with that quick spiel, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I am from California, born in California, but spent most of my young childhood in Jamaica. That is where my family is from. I kind of grew up in a farm style living, and now I'm living on the beach, which I never thought that would be, but I'm absolutely loving it and enjoying seeing the seals every day. I am also ex-military. I've spent 5 years in the Army active duty, 6 years in the Air Force Reserves. And so I've moved around a lot in the US, as well as living overseas in the Middle East and Asia, as well as Europe. And I have worked for the VA, Department of Defense, and currently working for a nonprofit agency. My educational background started as a nurse. In the military, I was a chemical operations specialist. So I made bombs and did decontamination, and for nerve agents and chemical weapons and radiation and biological weapons. Then I decided to pursue nursing. And then I decided to pursue my master's in social work. So I study medical and psychiatric social work. And I'm currently working as an infant and child mental health therapist, as well as an emergency room social worker. I absolutely love people. My passion is to help people in every way, every circumstance. I've
15 seconds.
Okay. So with that being said, I think that with my background and pairing up with everyone on the board, that it'll be a great opportunity to, just as Adam say, magnify the voices of those who are not able to speak for themselves, and for those who are underserved. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dawn, very much. Okay, so let's see. Next person on the list, we have Nick Juris. Nick, are you here? Did I pronounce your name correctly? Hello, Nick.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, great.
Everybody okay?
I can hear you.
Yes,
We're
okay.
ready whenever you are. Okay.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the meeting. And wow, bunch of busy bodies. I can't believe. Well, I planned for 10 minutes of talking, and so 2 to 3 minutes. So with me, I'm just going to kind of go through what I have here. But I've been on the island since 1983. I was a master carpenter builder, of which I built quite a few homes here on the island. I was also involved in search and rescue and a crime scene investigator. I used to volunteer at the church, Bethel and Evangelical Free Church of Vashon. I've been a very personable and island-loving person since I came in 1983. Instantly fell in love with the island. Fell in love with a girl too, and that's why I came here originally. Tried to get her off the island 14 times, but she wouldn't budge. So I figured there must be something to this island. So, and fell in love with it. Been here ever since. I've tried to do the best that I can for everybody that I can all of my life. I've been a natural born believer since I was 11 years old. I've volunteered at every given moment I can. I've given the best that I have of myself for people and for the betterment of others. I so absolutely love this island. when I saw this came up, you know, I'm a very, very shy person typically, but when I saw this came up, I really felt like this is something I really need to do because I'm the guy that gets stuff done. If you ever want somebody on your team that will get things done, here's your guy right here. And cannot be more direct than I am, but always with grains of salt, you know, and kindness. I think I smile more than probably most people do, but that's because that's who I am. I'm a positive natured person. And so I came here to volunteer myself here for this candidacy because I want to be able to help wherever I can on this island. That's the most important thing to me of all. I've been a mentor and a teacher nearly all of my life, from friendship to business. One of the greatest
15
characteristics
seconds.
thank you. Characteristics about me is that I'm here to live, push them down. That's something I promote always. And so here I am, and I'm happy to be a part of this. Thanks. And your vote for me is a vote for all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Nick. So I think the next person we have on here is Gavin Covite. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Great.
Whenever you're ready.
Hey, all. My name is Gavin Covite. I'm a teacher at Vashon High. I teach senior English and AP Literature. And like Dawn, actually, I'm fairly new here. This is my second year on the island, second year teaching. And like Dawn, I'm an Army vet as well. And I came here because I also love this island. This is a great place. I love the sense of community. And I was also wondering, like, who's in charge here, though? Like, it's the county. And so I think it's a great thing to have, and at least in an advisory capacity, a board that can communicate islands' wants and needs and preferences to the county, and then try to organize and communicate with island residents. I'm a lawyer. I'm an ex-lawyer, I guess you could say, but I had been an administrative lawyer for a while, so I have large bureaus. Use that skill with. Additionally, I play in a few bands here on Vashon. I've done a bunch of performances, and so that facet of the island, and it's a wonderful place for all that. So I think what I would do is that what is important to me is like the sense of having a community voice with the county, especially in this time of change. And we have I think we're very different from a lot of the rest of the King County. I would like to try to bring students, like the student community and the school staff, into this place to try to have more student input and talk about what makes the island a better place for students and teenagers. The environment's important to me. Good use of public spaces are important to me, and just a well-functioning community where everyone's nice to each other and gets what's going on. So that's really my priorities, I think, if I were to be elected. But even if not, I'm so glad that this is happening. So thanks you all for putting this together. I think it's a wonderful thing for the island. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Gavin, very much. And let's go check our list for the next nominee, which is John Osborne. John, are you here?
I'm here. Can you see me?
I don't see you. I do hear you. Let's see here. All I'm seeing is a black screen.
Okay, I have my video turned on. Well, can you hear me?
We can hear you. If you want to go without video, we can go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you want to want us to come back to you and see if you can fix your video, or do you want to go ahead and do it with just audio?
I don't know how I fix my video. I mean, I have a button. I have a button that says stop and start.
Okay. Well, it's your call. What do you want to do?
Well, let me just try one more time, see if it'll turn on the video. Okay, the video went. Do you have video now?
I see a black screen. Does anybody else see a black screen?
Yeah.
My little green light's on. Okay, I'm just going to talk.
Okay.
So my name is John Osborne. I usually go just by Oz. So I've lived on the island for about 30 years. I've lived on both Vashon and Maury Island. With my wife, Jenny, we've raised 2 daughters, but now we are adjusting to an empty nest lifestyle. So Jenny and I have been deeply involved in our island community. Jenny's worked for nearly 25 years as a registered nurse at Vashon Community Care, caring for the island's elderly and their families, and maybe even a relative of yours. I have served on a number of board situations. My first volunteer board was the chair of the Creative Preschool, and it was all downhill from there. That was a wonderful board experience. From there, I went on to serve on the board of Dance Vashon, and I was a dancing dad in 11 straight dance shows. If you've heard of the Dancing Dads, if not, you should go see a show in the spring and see the Dancing Dads. In 2005, I was elected to the board of the Vashon Island School District. During that time, I was also the Vashon Island School District representative to the Vashon Island Emergency Management Area Board, but that was a mouthful. So after my board term ended, I served on many committees related to schools to pass capital and operation levies. And one of my proudest accomplishments was chairing the committee that secured funding for the new high school building. While I was on the school board, I spent almost 3 to 4 nights a week in meetings discussing and designing and the new high school. So to see it actually get built was really something that pleased me. Currently, I'm on the board of Partners in Education, or PI, and we raise funds for to directly support teachers and kids in the school district. So for work, I work for the University of Washington and NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and I work in Ocean Acidification Group, or the Ocean Carbon Group at NOAA, and I manage the data, and I'm a software developer for the part of the Ocean Carbon Group that uses moorings. And I also teach computer science part-time at Olympic College when they actually need a teacher. So 12 years ago, our family moved from our far-flung house on Maury Island to a house we built in downtown Vashon. And that's really why I'm here tonight.
15 seconds.
We live behind the village green and can walk everything in town and observe how town is doing. I have a keen interest in the health and viability of the commercial and cultural heart of our community. We were surprised that downtown Vashon had so many of the same issues that you see in Seattle, including traffic, crime, and homelessness. So what I'd like to see is downtown Vashon become more resilient by promoting policies that allow more housing to be built within walking distance of town. And I'd also like to see the infrastructure of town be improved, especially sidewalks.
John, we're going to have to go on to the next person. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Oz. Okay, we're going to move.
I guess Camille Reeves.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
Hang on. I gotta turn on my lights. So I have like every light in my house kind of here, because if I don't, my video is totally dark. My name's Camille Reeves. This is my daughter Mirbai. Hey Mirbai, remember we had to be quiet. Ready? So I was born on Vashon. Well, I was born in Seattle, but after 3 days, came to Vashon. And I grew up here. I moved back in 2015 after living several years in Olympia and Portland. And I moved back because I love Vashon, and to me, after traveling around, the Western United States, did some international travel in Southeast Asia, I decided that this is one of the most beautiful places on the planet, and it's a very special community. I mean, the community, it's a beautiful place naturally, but the community really, really makes it beautiful. And so when I heard about the community council, I got really excited. And for a while there were meetings and they were on the same night as band practice. So as many of you know, my music is very important to me. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I love engaging with others. And part of music is community building. So it's a big way for me to interact with my community, to connect with people. So anyway, so I love the arts. My mom is an artist, Sylvia Paja. She does sand engraved glass. But a lot of you probably know her because she works at Fair Isle Animal Clinic. And so if you have pets, she's worked there for almost my entire life. So anyways, the things I think that I'm really excited about in moving back to Vashon is thinking about what we want, what's our vision for our community. Adam mentioned that earlier, kind of like coming together and deciding, you know, what do we want for the future and for the now. I see that, baby. I gotta keep talking, okay? So my thing is I'm really excited about in building sort of sustainable local economy that doesn't depend on you know, tourists, and we have more things that is it's community resilience. You have to go in the other room now, please. Thank you. So having community resiliency of the economy where we aren't necessarily affected by, you know, big economic changes on the outside because we meet a lot of our needs within the community. And I think that we have that capacity more than we use it right now. Particularly in farming. I think the farms are going to be such an essential resource for us, but there's also other natural resources that exist here that we need to take care of. So preserving natural resources is a really important thing to me. You know, creating alternative infrastructure for us economically on Vashon. Those are kind of big things for me. So anyway, I will be here at the meetings, whether I'm on the board or not. I hope I get your vote, but if not, I totally support the people who have already spoken and am really grateful to have them also running. So thank you guys.
Okay, thank you, Camille.
Adam, if I could interrupt, I see that our sheriff, Mitzi Johannek, is in our meeting now, and we were planning to do a presentation with regard to the King County Charter amendments. So if we could pause the candidates at this point and take our presentation and then get back to it, I think that would be helpful. Is there anyone who is strongly opposed to that? Okay.
We have 4 candidates left to speak. That's Nicholas Simmons, Nathan Tidrow, Nikki Wilkes, and David Vogel. So as long as those 4 candidates, I think, are okay with it. Nick,
are you okay? Nick Simmons? Good. Okay. And I'm okay with it. So, and Nathan, is Nathan here? Nathan Tidrow?
No, he's not.
Okay. Well, and so then I think, and Nikki Wilkes is...
He's in another board meeting, and I'm going to send him an email when it's his time. So it probably doesn't matter for him.
Great. That sounds great. Well, at this point, what we were going to do in terms of our presentation is Bailey DeYoung, our own Bailey DeYoung, has been on the island since 1989. She had spent 23 years with the King County Civil Rights Office, majority of that as director, and she's currently active with Showing Up for Racial Justice, Criminal Justice Action Group on the island. She's been president and list manager of the South End Community Club in Tahlequah. So Bailey was going to give us information about all of the charter amendments. The 2 charter amendments that are controversial would be 5 and 6. And in order to present the viewpoint opposed to charter amendments 5, and 6, we have invited our King County Sheriff, Mitzi Joanecht. Is that pronounced okay?
That's pretty close, Johanknick.
Oh,
Thanks.
okay, Johanknick.
Good to be here.
I've been away for a long time. I just came back, so I'm not as familiar with the island, the county politic. So thank you for coming. And at this point, I'd like to have Bailey speak to the charter amendments. And then when I believe we were going to give Bailey 15 minutes to speak about all of the charter amendments, and give our sheriff 10 minutes to speak to the 2 amendments, and then we can take questions and answers. So I would ask people to hold off on any questions until the end of the presentations. So thank you very much, Bailey.
Okay, and if I could have the ability to share my screen, that would be great, Diane. Thank you, David, and thank you to the council for allowing me to speak to you tonight and for inviting the sheriff to come as well. That's great. So now I'm going to go through the sharing my screen thing, which somehow doesn't look like the one we practiced with yesterday. What's new, huh?
Yeah, you are the presenter though. You should be able to see the share button at the bottom of your screen.
Oh yeah, I got that.
Just takes a while. It cranks up slowly. Okay.
It's here, Bailey.
Great, thank you. Okay. So I'm here tonight as a member of an ACLU Power, People Power grassroots. I'm going to go on. Well, that's where it is. Okay, I'm a member of an ACLU People Power grassroots group, the Seattle King County Police Accountability Working Group. And my team focuses on King County, and we've concentrated on 4 charter amendments related to public safety, which are on the ballot this November. And I'm playing with this. Sorry about that. This is fun. After studying the issues, our group recommends voting yes on amendments 1, 4, 5, and 6, because they offer a critical opportunity to strengthen accountability of the sheriff's office, but we know they may be difficult to understand. So, voting for police accountability in King County. Currently in King County and across the country, momentum continues to build to reimagine what public safety looks and feels like for all residents. However, the King County Charter, essentially our county constitution, has several barriers that prevent our elected officials from acting to make meaningful change on policing. If approved, 4 of the 7 amendments on the ballot in November would remove some of these barriers so that our council can act in the public interest with the goal of increasing true public safety for all their constituents. And without these amendments, 1, 4, 5, and 6, structural change is very difficult, and the public has limited power to advocate for reform and accountability. So why are charter amendments on the November ballot anyway? Well, as I said, the charter is King County's constitution that sets out the county's responsibilities and powers. And every 10 years, a citizen commission is convened to review the charter and suggest updates. The council decides if the amendments go to the voters. So 3 of these 4 amendments were suggested by the Citizen Commission last year, 2019, and 1 was developed during the summer. It was discussed and approved by the county council after hearings this summer. So you can imagine what it's been informed by. The first amendment, Amendment 1, pertains to law enforcement throughout the county. Amendments 4, 5, and 6, that I'll talk about in a second, apply only to the sheriff's office. Amendment 1 and 4 don't have organized opposition, but they are important, so I do want to explain them. Charter Amendment 1 addresses inquests, and basically It addresses police accountability by reforming the inquest process a bit. They're formal fact-finding processes that look into the cause and circumstances of deaths that occur involving law enforcement. No judgment or liability on fault is made, and inquests apply to all law enforcement and jail personnel across the county. Currently, the law is unclear about which deaths involving law enforcement require an inquest, and under county ordinance, but not under the charter, legal representation is provided to families whose loved one died. County-funded legal representation is provided to law enforcement officers. And so what this amendment does is it clarifies that an inquest is required when an action, decision, or possible failure to act, failure to offer appropriate care by a member of a law enforcement agency might have contributed to a person's death. That's the language of the amendment. And it specifies that the agencies included under this include all the police agencies in King County, including even state agencies, and jails or corrections facilities. And it also provides the option of a public defender for the person who's died. And we need this to build public trust to ensure that the families, the public, and law enforcement are served by the process, and a process that they can understand and count on. Inquests cannot repair the damage done by the death, but they do give some answers about what happened and some information to the family. And even important, and not more importantly, but very importantly, they can identify areas for improvement of the law enforcement agency. So currently, there's a lawsuit pending filed by cities who have inquests pending, and a lot of inquests are being held up. Over 19 inquests are held up, waiting for the lawsuit to be resolved. The charter amendment won't resolve all the issues, but it will help. So charter amendments 4, 5, and 6, those are the ones that impact the sheriff's office. And as I said, the inquest amendment applies to all the police agencies in King County, but these are for the sheriff's office only. And it's important to know that, and I think we probably know this here more than a lot of people throughout the county too, but 75% of the county population is policed by police agencies other than the sheriff. These areas, 75% of the population, they have their own police departments and they have their own appointed police chiefs, and they have oversight by their own mayors and their councils. And then the other 25%, 11% of us are unincorporated King County, and we know that. And then 14% are contract cities, and I have some friends from Burien watching, and all these other cities, also have contracts with the sheriff to get policing from them, and a few agencies as well. So even though only 25% of the county is policed by the sheriff, 100% of the county decides who our sheriff is. Charter Amendment 4 is about the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, or OLEO, and that's the civilian oversight body for the sheriff's office. It was created by ordinance in 2006, but was pretty toothless for a long time, and it still remains somewhat toothless, to be sure. But in 2015, voters approved a charter amendment empowering OLEO to review conduct by the sheriff's office. And according to OLEO, in a report cited in the Seattle Times, would it endorse this amendment, OLEO can't complete its investigations because the sheriff's office refuses to provide information that it requests. Well, that refusal to cooperate happens because the terms of civilian oversight are currently a subject of collective bargaining with the Sheriff's Guild, and the Guild has opposed changes improving oversight. And I note that that's why Amendments 5 and 6 together are so important, because they will change how collective bargaining is done with the Sheriff's Guild. So what this amendment does is give OLEO the authority to legally require or subpoena the Sheriff's Office to require it to provide documents, witnesses, and other evidence. And we need it because they need the information to do their job. Subpoena power is an essential and standard oversight tool to ensure that police can be held accountable for their actions, or for any agency to do investigations. When I was director of the Office of Civil Rights, we had subpoena power. Adopting this amendment would show that the voters support true oversight and would make it harder for oversight to be bargained away in negotiations with the Police Officers Guild. So the last two amendments, Amendments 5 and 6, are critical and do have opposition. In fact, the King County Police Officers Guild, which I've just referred to, has contributed $165,000 to fight these amendments. And let me assure you, there's not a lot of money going to supporting them at this point. So Charter Amendment number 5 would make the King County Sheriff an appointed position. And they haven't always been elected. In the 1960s, when the King County Charter was adopted to respond to widespread corruption in county government, the position of sheriff was changed from elected to appointed with the goal of professionalizing the office and selecting the best qualified person for the job. In 1996, Executive Gary Locke proposed cutting the sheriff's budget during a budget crisis. As a response, the Republican-controlled council put a charter amendment on the ballot to make the sheriff an elected position, along with a provision to prevent changes in the sheriff's duties. Voters approved the change, and the sheriff became a separately elected official, no longer a member of the cabinet like other department heads who are appointed. If the sheriff returns to being appointed, he or she would rejoin that cabinet and work with other department heads to problem solve. So, as I said, the amendment would make the county sheriff an appointed position again. And I want to say also that this proposal is not about the current sheriff. The Citizens Commission that made this recommendation said specifically that. It's about increasing oversight of policing in King County. And while it may seem counterintuitive, making the sheriff an appointed position is actually more democratic, given the situation we have in our county with only 25% of us policed by the sheriff.
Bailey, I'm going to interrupt you. Could you switch to the next chart? We're just still looking at number 4.
Sorry. Thank you, Diane. You're very kind. There we go. So why do we need it? Well, as I shared in the pie chart a few minutes ago, the sheriff's office provides direct policing to unincorporated areas, contract cities, and the agencies, and that's 25% of our population. Appointment gives those who are most impacted by the sheriff a greater voice through their elected council members and the executive, since 7 of the 9 council members that we have now have constituents in areas actually policed by the sheriff. And I did not know this fact about running for sheriff, but a candidate for sheriff has to live and vote in King County. And that's quite a requirement. And since the position has become elected, the only people who have chosen to run have been from within the sheriff's office. Appointment of the sheriffs opens the applicant pool to qualified people outside of King County. If we want meaningful change, it will help to be able to recruit people from outside the department, outside the county, or even outside the state, or at least consider them and put them in the running. And it also opens the position up to those who are qualified, but who wouldn't choose to go through a campaign. Many qualified folks are simply unwilling to go through the gauntlet of a political campaign. I think we all appreciate that right now during election plus season. Elections politicize the position and can cause internal strife when contested. That happened when our current sheriff, who's joined us, ran against her boss. Officers complained that the former sheriff put pressure on them to support him. An appointed sheriff is easier to hold accountable between elections. You don't have to hold a recall election or wait until the next formal election, which could be years away. If there are issues with the sheriff, the council and the executive can make more timely changes to the office. And again, the past sheriff was accused of serious and criminal misconduct, accusations which came to light during the campaign, and neither the council nor the executive could have done anything because the sheriff was what we call in the county a separately elected official. And similarly, if the council or the executive want police reforms, they can ask the sheriff to comply, but their power to force them is very limited. Charter Amendment number 6 goes to that second part of the change from back in '96, and that is about the structure and the duties of the Department of Public Safety. And currently, King County Charter language blocks the council from being able to make changes as to how policing services are delivered to King County. And secondly, it also has the sheriff negotiating with its own guild, the King County Police Officers Guild, regarding the conditions of work, including whether they comply with oversight by providing information to Olio. And as the Times pointed out in its endorsement of Amendment 4, the Police Officers Guild has been allowed to block civilian oversight measures during contract negotiations. So this amendment would allow the county, it does two things. It would allow the county council to modify the duties of the King County Sheriff's Office or merge it with another department if appropriate. And it also calls for the King County Executive to negotiate contracts with the Officers Guild instead of the sheriff. And why do we need it? Well, it would prevent the conflict of interest that I mentioned created by the sheriff negotiating with its own union. And it changes the dynamic of negotiations on conditions of employment, with the executive being responsible for those negotiations, and that would provide better oversight. It also ties the duties of the sheriff's office to county ordinance, and then the council could modify them in response to public calls for police reform. That would allow the council to reimagine policing, to hold hearings, to get input, to change the way that public safety happens here in King County, and to meet everyone in the county's needs, not just us who are white and middle class. To consider having a range of responses to crises, to develop a range of options to handle situations which simply don't require the attention of armed personnel, who can aggravate the situation and end up in the horrible situations we've seen on camera this summer. So these amendments won't in and of themselves make big changes, but they do set the stage and permit the council to consider and evaluate making changes in policing. These amendments will allow the community to work with its elected representatives to decide how public safety is achieved for everyone in our community. On a personal note, my husband and I raised our son on Vashon. He's a tall, white young man with no mental health issues. I didn't have to worry about him and the police on Vashon. I didn't have to worry about him and the police when he went to Seattle. I didn't have to give him the talk. But my friends with black and brown sons do have to give their children the talk. No parent should have to give them the talk about how to handle interactions with the police to avoid getting killed, you know? And no parent should have to go through what the parents of Machance Dunlap Gittens had to go through. Their son was subject to a sting operation run by the sheriff's office that went terribly wrong. He was shot in the back 5 times while he was running away. And while the officers were cleared in an internal investigation, an administrative review concluded that numerous errors occurred, and it gave 20 recommendations for reform. The Office of Law Enforcement Oversight commissioned an independent review last year. It was presented in February. And according to that review, none of the 20 reforms suggested by the administrative review have been implemented. Please vote yes on Charter Amendments 1, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bailey. And now I'd like to introduce Sheriff Mitzi Johag. Is that better?
You know, it's always a work in progress. I'm getting some feedback. So there's.
I'm hearing echoing.
Okay.
W.
How are we doing now?
Good.
Okay, great. So I don't know where to begin exactly, but let's start at the beginning. My stepdaughter's a Black woman, so I did have the talk with her. So just so you know where we're coming from, some equal footing in a lot of different ways that maybe others haven't experienced. I'm a 36-year veteran of the King County Sheriff's Office, just about. and have a lot of pride in that time, and had that many experiences over that course of that time, to include working for appointed sheriffs and working for elected sheriffs, and then deciding to run to be the elected sheriff. There are many factual things that are in dispute in Bailey's presentation, and this is not personal and it's not about me, but there are things that I disagree on. The facts presented in the case with Tommy Lay and shooting him in the back, all these things are not factual to the story. The fact that 20 different things were found wrong by the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight, I appreciate their approach and response. That was a report authored on behalf of Director Jacobs when she was here. And we've responded to that. We will be responding to that report. We also responded most recently and worked with the Dunlap-Gittens family on another officer-involved shooting. So I am hopefully can have an opportunity to come back and talk to you on another time about the work that we do in the sheriff's office. But I want to get to the charter amendments that I think are really, really important for you to hear my perspective on it, having experienced time. First of all, the sheriff's office does do work throughout King County, and the information drawn from the Charter Amendment Commission on Charter Amendment 4 is there's always two sides to every story. And when I tell people when we do investigations in the sheriff's office, it always lands somewhere in the middle. But in particular, I know this for a fact, the population of the sheriff's office oversees directly in unincorporated county and provides police services to unincorporated county, to include Vashon and our contract cities. The population bases are very similar to that of the city of Seattle. We work very closely with suburban cities that are our neighbors in adjoining districts and areas, and have really good working relationships with those cities. We are the only official police agency outside of Seattle that has oversight of their office, civilian oversight. One of the things I put forward in my budget for this next biennium was asking to have a civilian employee join the sheriff's office to oversee our Office of Professional Standards. And then that civilian would oversee our internal investigations and our force reviews and other things, and work directly with the Director of Law Enforcement Oversight, as we are currently doing with the interim director, Adrian Watt. Charter Amendment 6 is it is complex. It was brought into ordinance in a 3-week window. It did not go through the Charter Commission process, as was discussed with other charter amendments on the ballot, as well as Charter Amendment 4. Charter Amendment 4 went through about an 18-month process with public hearings and was vetted out. And so I think that fairly goes to the ballot, even though I believe we are best served by having an elected sheriff. Here's why. In Charter Amendment 4, every day I get phone calls and emails from community members directly to me as the sheriff. I can immediately respond to those and make assignments to other members across the sheriff's office, and make sure that community members have some direct contact in a very quick time for us to problem solve the quality of life issues that affect the areas we cover. I talked about a broader coverage than 25%. That's because your sheriff's office is involved in providing good police services for Sound Transit across their jurisdiction, as well as Metro Transit. We do a lot of service of temporary restraining orders, emergency restraining orders for gun violence across the entire county. The ability of having an elected sheriff, I was able to step up very quickly and stop doing evictions, except for when a court says there is a criminal or public health emergency. And so we've had evictions on hold faster than we had them on hold with the Attorney General of the state of Washington. So the value of having an elected sheriff is that first stop lands in my office, and then I can ask others to carry on and do things, or I can even handle things myself. One of my experience has been with elected sheriffs is the elected sheriff has to go to the executive, talk with the executive, work through whatever process there is there. And so if you wanted to directly go to your sheriff, you'd have to go to the executive, deal with some offices over there, or maybe through the council in Charter Amendment 6. And it gets very convoluted, that direct access and your ability to independently elect the person you want to be your sheriff cannot occur. If we go back to having an appointed sheriff. The work is hard. It is a heavy lift and a heavy time. But I have been working on reform since I took office. One of the reasons I ran. It's interesting to hear Bailey talk about reimagining policing. That was what I ran on. That was the tagline of my campaign, was reimagining policing into the future. I'm glad others have picked it up because it's been important for over 400 years. And racial injustice has happened for over 400 years in our nation. And the fact that just now, my whole time in office, almost 3 years, only 3 council members have come to me during that time to work with the sheriff's office on reform. There are 6 others who have not, and to this moment and this day and time have refused to come forward and talk to me about how they can help us work on reform, nor has the executive. Now, I have staff that have reached out to the county executive, and we are working at some lower levels on ways that we can get mental health professionals integrated into the sheriff's office, so that when people are in crisis, the first thing they see is a friendly face and a mental health professional backed up and supported by sheriff's office standing off to the side to offer protection. Because by law, there are only certain things that we can do, which is when somebody's a danger to themselves or others, help them get, if they can't stay at their home or where they are at that point in time, to get them resources, to get them housing, to work through those processes. We work with LEAD, which is Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion. At the deputy level, we can work with that office to divert charges away and keep people from going into the school to prison pipeline. It's a big thing we're working on with them, as well as CoLead, which is working with homeless populations to keep them out of the criminal justice system as much as possible and help them with behavioral health issues if they exist for them. So those are the things your elected sheriff can do directly. I'm working across the nation with the state of Washington right now and all the police chiefs and sheriffs across the state to work with the state legislature, where a lot of this work has to go on Charter Amendment 6. I'm here to tell you, state law has to change to help us with collective bargaining, and that means me as well, because collective bargaining changes would help me have better ability to impose discipline, and make sanctity of life the most important thing that happens for law enforcement. I'm on the board of the Washington State Association of Police Chiefs and Sheriffs. I got on the board in my 2nd year as a sheriff, and I've been working on sanctity of life issues since that point in time. There's a list of things that we've proposed legislatively to the state. It's on, I can forward to you the web page where all that stuff is listed out. I won't get into detail now, but here's to say there are at least 15 legislative measures we're putting forward. I was the first non-person of color in law enforcement to support Initiative 940, been behind that. And those things, many of those things cover what's in charter, the inquest charter, by the way, which I'm not opposed to, nor am I opposed to subpoena power for oleo. I'd like to touch on a couple of things that both Charter Amendment 5 and 6 think will make better as far as oversight goes, real quickly. And those are, yes, I get to bargain working conditions for the Police Officers Guild and the other 11 or so labor unions that work in the Sheriff's Office. Working conditions are offset for something. So for the members of the guild, let's say, to give away a working condition, they're looking for money. They're looking for the offset. What are you going to pay me to give up, let's say, doing investigations, allowing investigations to happen, right? Wages and benefits are in the executive shop. So the executive ends up both negotiating wages and benefits and working conditions, because working conditions are always the trade-off for wages and benefit. So I don't get in the way of the negotiations. And as a matter of fact, oleo negotiates separately with the Office of Labor Relations and the executive and the guild. So I don't get in the way of oversight in negotiations in any way, shape, or form. The Office of Law Enforcement Oversight has access to our database with every internal investigation, use of force, and pursuit review that we have. They have direct access into that database. We have never kept away investigative paperwork unless it was an open investigation into an officer-involved shooting. And then when that criminal investigation is done, they have complete access to all the paperwork. They come to the Critical Incident Review Board. They participate in interviews and so on and so forth. So there's a lot more that I want to share with you and talk to you about that I believe is not well represented in Charter Amendment 5 or Charter Amendment 6. I strongly ask everyone to consider, if you haven't voted yet, to take another look. Charter Amendment 6 will, if it passes, is a mechanism to reallocate resources from the sheriff's office and put them elsewhere in county government. I asked the author of the amendment himself, who said this is to defund the sheriff's office. What that means is we have contracts with a variety of people where 58% of our budget is revenue backed. Those contracts will continue. The defunding will come out of unincorporated King County. That's the only place it can come from. The revenue brought in by contract cities and Sound Transit and other places, that revenue can't be used for other things by the county council. And I would offer one last thing. The county council hasn't offered a plan. They haven't talked with me about reform. They haven't come to me and said, how can we work together? The majority of them have not. So having them build an ordinance at some time later, after the charter amendment is passed, people don't know what they're voting for. If you vote for Charter Amendment 6, you're voting for the unknown. You don't know what the council's going to do. You don't know if it's legal for them to do it, and they don't have a plan to work with it. The only way that they can change things is to reduce services in unincorporated where your services are already reduced. So I'll leave things there. I'm happy to answer questions. Like I said, when all of November is over and we go on about life, I'd love to come back and talk more about all the reform we've done and the things that we'll be doing. And I haven't been watching the chat, so if anybody's asked me a question, I apologize for that.
Well, thank you, Sheriff.
You betcha.
We hadn't opened it up for questions yet, so we should be fine. And we're going to have about 5 minutes for questions. If anyone would like to put a question in, the chat is probably the best way to do that. And then I can direct it to whomever the question is directed to.
David, we do have one question already.
Okay.
Nancy Kick asks, can you ask the sheriff what specifically she has done in her term to quote, imagine policing?
Okay. Sure.
You bet.
Okay.
Thank you. So right off the top, we did a couple of things. I brought less lethal tools to the sheriff's office and restructured our de-escalation training. We revamped our critical incident review board process, in other words, our force review process. We changed our policy as it relates to internal investigations and brought in the aspects of independent investigative teams under Initiative 940 and have been working on that. I put 6 years of data related to not only use of force incidents, but internal investigation data on public-facing dashboards. It's the first law enforcement agency in the nation to have put both of those things forward in public-facing for people to go on our website and manipulate and work through those things. I have asked the county executive in this biennium, because we've been doing, we got $150,000 from risk management to look at transparency options to include body-worn camera systems and in-car camera systems. And we are almost at a test and evaluate phase of 10 of those body-worn cameras, and we would be testing them in Skyway, White Center, and on Vashon Island, so we get a broad range of life and patterns of life for people, and from rural to city. There's more. There's a lot more. Those are just a few things off the top of my head. We've changed how we do investigations into cold cases. We have 150 cases, homicide cases, missing person cases, where we have solvability factors that can be done. And since I took office, we solved about 6 of those cases. And there's some other things. So, but as it relates to reform, we've worked very closely with the Office of Law Enforcement Oversight and in responding to the reports done by Mr. Janako on behalf of Director Jacobs. We haven't been allowed time in council yet to provide a response back on 2 of those reports.
Sheriff, there was a question that was brought up by, Shannon Cheng. Wouldn't we have an opportunity as community members to provide input to the plan we want through public hearings at county council?
Okay, I don't know exactly what plan, but if you're talking about the 2 charter amendments, the county council their legislative process and committee processes your public comment is your time to provide them input. You can call me up and provide me input tomorrow on anything I have going on. The county council doesn't come from a place, they come from a legislative background and taking care of their communities. I come from a countywide position of providing community, and I have worked in all parts of the county over my 36 years. And you have direct access to me anytime to provide me input on any topic that you want, either through my email or through phone number to me.
Okay, and I have
Can I offer something, David?
Sure, Bailey. Yes.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that, as I said in my presentation, these amendments are not exactly what's going to happen. They are a step to allowing the council to reimagine policing. And I submit that what the sheriff just gave us was a list of reforms, not reimagining, not saying that unarmed personnel would go out to noise violations, as Council Member Zahile refers to when he talks about these amendments. Their permission not a plan, not a finding, because we need to have that community input and those hearings to have the council be able to determine what mix of services we want that go beyond policing, that are different than policing. We're not talking reform, we're talking reimagine, do something totally different. Don't have cops with guns go out to everything. So, but as I said, with respect to this plan, that will be in the future, but it will be done by elected officials that we have input into. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you both. We have kind of run out of time on this, but we would certainly welcome having more participation in the future from the Sheriff's Department. Over the years, we have worked closely with the Sheriff's Department. The Community Council has had the sheriffs out, and we've had a public safety committee for many, many years. But then we disappeared for a few years, and now we're back. So
well, I'm really glad you're back. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate your time tonight. So good to see everybody, and I'll send my my phone and email to folks. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time with us.
You bet.
Okay. Well, now we should move on back to our elections.
Yes.
And, I would ask Adam to introduce our, Tara Bruce is here now.
She is, but by her request, she is going to go, we're just going to pick up where we were, and she will be the last person to present. So the next person, now remember all of the nominees, remember that you have 2 to 3 minutes to speak. When you have 15 seconds left on the clock, I will give you a subtle warning that there's 15 seconds left. And you won't be answering any questions from the community tonight. If anybody does have a question for one of the nominees, you can submit that question to the VMICC's website, and we will make sure that it gets to the appropriate candidate. So now I know we're a little crunched for time here, so let's see. Nicholas Simmons, are you here?
I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you. So whenever you're ready to go, just go ahead and I'll start the timer.
I'll keep it really short. My name is Nick Simmons. I'm a lifelong resident of Vashon. Fun piece of trivia, none of the schools that I attended on island exist anymore. So I've seen a lot of changes, and I think it's really important that islanders have a hand in the changes that are coming. The island is under a lot of pressure, both population pressure and economic pressure from a lot of different sources. I look forward to solving some of those problems with the help of the community. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Short and sweet. Let's see here. Thank you very much. The next person that we have is Nathan Tedrow. Nathan, are you here tonight? Is anybody know if Nathan's here? Do we see him in the participants? He's not here. Okay, moving on to the next nominee. We have Nikki Wilkes. Is Nikki here?
Hey friends, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Nice. So, hello everyone. My name is Nikki Wilkes. You may know me through some of my professional roles on the island, the co-founder, facilitator, and ED at Journeyman Institute, and also a CTE teacher and member of the racial equity leadership team at Vashon Island High School. In addition to those roles, I'm father to 3, mentor to many, and beloved partner to my fiance, Caitlin, who is newer to Vashon, and I guess in like our 5th year, but originally from California. I guess I want to speak to the ways in which I know this place. So I was born on Vashon in my first home on Vermontville Road to my father, Joel, and mother, Linda. I know what it's like here to be a child and to love this place and the garden that it is for young children. And I also know what it's like to be here in the suffocating space of adolescence, and a role that I know very well through my work in Journeyman and at the high school. I know what it's like here to live here comfortably, which is how I feel now. I also know what it's like to be here in poverty. As just 4 years ago, I was working 5 different jobs on an income of $25,000, going to the food bank and EBT to feed our family of 5. And I know what it's like to struggle with housing. So I really feel close to the struggle for many here And I also feel that it's important to acknowledge privilege. I'm a cisgendered heterosexual white male in a place that treats me very well. And it's been really important for me to check that privilege in leadership and get close to everybody whom I may represent. And thanks to my work here, that I get to hear those voices and know that this is not the same community as it is for me, as it is for many of our Black and brown folks and our youth and folks living at or below the poverty line. I've been a commuter both to and from Vashon, most recently coming to Vashon to teach from Tacoma. I know what that dance is like, and I know what it's like to develop land. I'm trying to build a house right now and navigate King County's gauntlet of activities, cleaning up illegal forestry and putting land into forest stewardship, and do our best to tend to the natural spaces while we also create stable homes for ourselves. As a kid, I worked at Island Lumber and lifeguarded and had all sorts of fun landscaping jobs. And I feel like those experiences have really connected me to this place in some beautiful and also challenging ways. And now I think as this opportunity is in front of me, I just sit with the opportunity we have here with Vashon and people who care about this place and care about community to build something even more remarkable than it already is. I like to think that we have the recipe or all the ingredients for a beautiful recipe of thriving whole community.
15 seconds.
And realistically, I think it just takes a committed group of people to show up and say, hey, we're willing to do the work. And I feel called to be a part of that. So I'd like to work with you all. I appreciate the time, and I look forward to seeing what's done in this new envision of a community council. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nikki, thank you very much. We're going to be moving along to our next candidate, and that is David Vogel, who has already spoken a few times. You guys will see a familiar face here. David, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay,
Thank you, Adam.
all yours.
And thank you to all the people who have nominated themselves for the board. It's really exciting to see so many really qualified people running. That hasn't always been the case. Back in the 80s, I was the president of the community council from 1986 until 1993. And I think the main reason is that no one else wanted the job. So, but on the other hand, it's a great organization. It's done a lot of good things for the island over many years. And it had established a lot of credibility by virtue of all the projects that it's taken on and successfully completed and working with the county. Now, it's said before that, well, we had no voice on the island. And without the Vashon Community Council, that's true. The island is rather silent when it comes to other government entities and other agencies. And so we really need it. So when I came back to the island after being away for 11 years, I saw that it had not reformed itself after it had to end its existence because of the threat of lawsuit. I saw that there were ways around the threat of lawsuit, pretty easy ways. And so I just took it on myself to start it up again. Now, the reason I'm running now is I think I have a lot of experience and knowledge about this organization that I'd like to pass on. I do not want to be on the board forever like I was before for 15 years. It was a great 15 years, but I think there are other people now who are suitable to take over, and I'd sure like to pass it on. But for the next 2 years, I think it would be good for me to be on the board to pass on what I know to the people who are running. And I love the community. That's why I'm back. It's more than just the beautiful nature and all the, nice things about the island. It is the community that makes it so special. And that is the main reason that I came back here after moving to California. So I'm running. I would like to serve the community for another couple of years, and I hope you vote for me.
Okay, thank you, David. Now, Tara Bruce, my understanding is that you're here.
Hello.
Hi, are you ready?
I guess so.
Okay, well, it's all yours.
Hi, I'm Tara. I'm rather new to the island in the grand scheme of things. I've been here for maybe 2.5 years. I used to bartend at the Ruby Brink when that was a thing that people did. I'm also a small business owner. I have my own massage practice on the island, and I'm running because I love this community. I love like the potential that it holds to be like its own like self-sustaining sort of place. And I think especially now in these sort of like uncertain times, just like the importance of depending on community and working together as a community to like ensure our safety and security. I personally am super interested in like the independence of the food systems on the island. Like I'm currently working with the food bank on brainstorming, like developing a community larder and just like, I don't know, just food security and how that looks on our island. And I just want to be more involved and become more plugged into the community around me, because I think that is the most important thing right now. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tara. Now, is there anyone here? I know we had a few no-shows earlier. Is there anyone here who is a board nominee who has not spoken yet? Any late arrivals?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you to everyone. Now, I know that there were some people who they had problems with their picture, and we only saw a blank screen. But just so everybody knows, you can see pictures of all the candidates at the VMICC.net website, and you can see all the bios and pictures of everybody there.
Great. Well, thank you, Adam. And the next item on the agenda would be Adam again.
And I'm back.
Okay.
So hi everyone. My name's Adam Foster, and I wanted to talk for a second about something that that I want to bring up at the next community council meeting when we have a board of directors that is set, and that is the creation of a traffic safety improvement committee of some kind. And the reason for this is because when the county, they get calls and requests from all over the island for various traffic related issues, and they don't like, but the county does not like to do anything based on the request from a private individual. The county prefers to make sure, they want to make sure that whenever they do something that they pretty much have the general approval of the entire community before they do it. So without something like a community council or a town council, it's very hard for the county to know exactly what it is the community kind of at large would like to see. So I want to ask the new board of directors, when they're set at the next meeting, if we can create this committee so that we can kind of survey the island and find out where the problem areas are. King County Traffic actually does know where a lot of problem areas are, and they already have ideas for things that they could do, but they really want to hold off until they have been basically asked to do these things by the community council or the community at large. And so, and this would be anything you can really think of. They get requests for stuff like sidewalk improvements, for signaled crosswalks in Vashon, for bicycle lanes, for sharrows, for those rumble strip thingies. They get requests for all kinds of things. And so I think that it would be a good idea for us as a community. These issues have not been dealt with in 8 years, and the county has really kind of held off for 8 years, really doing anything significant to improve traffic safety on the island, even as we start to get more and more traffic on the island. So I think it would be at the next meeting, community council meeting, a good idea to call for the creation of a traffic safety improvement committee in order to work with the county to figure out where the problems are, what the county's possible solutions would be for these problems, and then put it to the board for a vote to see whether or not, as a community, we want to request the county's help with these issues. And then, and as you guys, some of you probably know, the committees all are temporary. So once the committee, serves its purpose and sends whatever proposals for traffic safety improvement they have to the board, then at that point the committee would disband because they would have served their purpose. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. And if anybody has any interest in talking about these kinds of issues or helping out with a committee like that, please let me know. I'll put my email address here in the chat function as well. Oh, I'll do that after I get done talking to you guys. So I'll give you guys my email address in the chat function. Anybody can send me an email if you want to. And other than that, thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to, I guess, Diane. Do you want to take back over?
I'll take over.
Okay, Dave.
Okay, thanks. And Adam, from a historical perspective, the Community Council has had a traffic safety committee as a standing committee that was very functional for over 20 years.
That's what I've heard, yes.
Yeah, and so it's kind of a natural for this organization to have a traffic safety committee, and there are so many issues, and we do get the attention of the county. And so I think that's a very good idea, and I'm certainly going to encourage it. Now, the next item on the agenda, I see Bill Moyer over there getting sleepy. No.
Oops, I was supposed to be on my own.
And Amy Morrison, they're here to speak about a time bank on the island.
All right, everybody, hello. Amy asked me to start this off, do this, and then she's just going to correct me. So my name is Bill Moyer, and I've lived on the island about 31 years. About 17 years or so ago, I co-founded something called the Backboom Campaign with a bunch of friends. And though we work around the country doing progressive activist support and actions, we also bring some of those skills and capacities to our home community when necessary and whenever and possible. So that can range everything from collaborating with folks who started the mosquito fleet, like Nick Simmons and other folks who've been on this call, to stop an industrial gravel mine on Maury Island, to helping to bring a credit union to the island, which is now PSECU. We used to have 3 banks and no credit unions. Now we have 2 active credit unions. We think we should actually rename Bank Road to be Credit Union Way, but that's a whole other discussion. Anyway, and it's helping make sure that the groundwater under K2 was checked before the building was abandoned, et cetera, sold, et cetera. So around COVID, when that hit, we wanted to bring our attention home. And so we did host a number of presentations on community resilience and local living economies. And one of those, we also worked with artists in the community to put up the very first physical distancing and hand washing, wear mask signs. And then we mobilized hundreds of hours of volunteer time, volunteers to the one nonprofit farm. Not that many of them don't all struggle to make a profit, but anyway, the one Matsuda Farm, to make sure that there was yet more decommodified food on the island available regardless of people's ability to pay. And then midsummer, we pivoted to bring an idea that we've been heard about and we know has actually been tried on the island before. We think it's a very timely idea for a moment when everything is shifting. And so we interviewed the founder of the Time Bank concept, Edgar Kahn, and his wife, Chris Gray. We did that. We did a number of other COVID-related hosting town halls, teaching people how to do Zoom, and some really funny stuff on Nettles. So that all to taking and shifting some of that energy around the farm and the volunteering at the farm to actually creating a time bank. So Jenna Riggs, awesome graphic designer, worked with Amy Morrison, and this is where I'd like to insert that this is a team effort, and Deborah Perpetua is one of the people who has like been doing a lot of team organizing of the time bank in the last about month and a half. But really, especially important to recognize the incredible work of Amy Morrison, who interviewed folks around the country, helped create these workbook, etc. The ground rule, the rules, the application form, etc. But also Eric Ossink and Barb McMahon, who helped us pick the tool, a technical tool, etc. So I'm gonna switch over so you can see some of that stuff. So on vashonresilience.org, you can see kind of an overview of everything. It's also a portal to get to the time bank. One you can find through that page or the other page is access to an time exchange handbook. It has cool stuff like, okay, yeah, what is a time bank? So how time exchange works. Like time bank, for those who don't know, is a time-based currency. Give 1 hour of service to and receive one-time credit. You can use credits in turn to receive services from anybody who's part of the time bank, or you can donate them to others. 1 hour of service always equals 1 hour of time. So in order to launch this, last month we did something called the Vashon Community Teach-In. And so we held multiple sessions where people were offering, some sharing their gifts, kind of giving people a teaser of the talents and gifts of the folks around them in the community. Everything from furniture repair to cool things you can make at home to put on toast, and it wasn't gross, to rhythms with these crazy Islander people, tour through a gallery, how to spin yarn. And so now we're up to 99 members. That's pretty good. And because there's a bit, you do have to register. And so we're 99 members. Oops. Yeah, we're including some of the credit from the volunteer work that happened at the farm, but also not all of it, because there was like 500 hours at the farm. But this, I should also say that nonprofits can participate in the time exchange. So folks can use their time hours, some of their time hours that they do as volunteer hours for credit as part of the time bank. And then we've had thus far only 40 exchanges, but we're excited people can post offerings and post something or things that they need to receive, and they do that at VashonTime.org. Super easy to remember. So anyway, it just seems like this is a really important time to decommodify aspects of our life, meaning to take it out of the debt, money relationships, to celebrate the gifts of people locally, and to learn how not just to give but also to receive from our neighbors. That's going to be a journey for all of us, and we just think that the time exchange is an infrastructure that can help us do that. It encourages the gift economy by sort of formalizing it a bit in a way that's hopefully really affirmative. I want to just close with the fact that we had a second teach-in last weekend. It was super cool. We had a presenter who was 11 years old talking photography, did a little class on photography, especially like how to frame a shot, etc. But we also had cool stuff like stretches for when you're doing too many Zooms in one day, like today. Or what else? How to sell crafts at a fair, or the Vashon Rock, so by geologist Stephen Bergman. So lots of stuff there. I think it's a very complementary project to the project of the local democracy project of the Vashon Community Council, and I hope that the Backbone campaign, and now through this project, our Vashon Resilience work and Vashon-Time.org can be increasingly relevant to people about the things that are most important to us all, that transcend politics, honestly, and get to the things that we love, including each other and this place and future generations. So that's me. And Amy, what did I leave out? Please help me out and
just real briefly, thanks, Bill. That was great. We are open to both individuals and organizations to join. So it's a way for organizations to recruit volunteer help, and that we all have something to offer. So just encourage you to think on that. Thank you.
So please do go sign up at Vashon-Time.org. The critical thing is that there's a diversity of offerings, and people are making exchanges and then logging those exchanges, so that that as certain folks on the island, in this economic environment, are going to lose some aspect of their income and such. We want to keep everybody's. We want to value everybody in this community, and that's a much longer conversation. But a time bank is one way to do that and help honor people's gifts and keep the quality of life as rich and beautiful as it can be. Check.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you, Amy. And I have to say, I've always been very proud of Backbone campaign, and the fact that really that Vashon is one of those places that thinks globally and acts locally. It's part of our community, and it's a very important part. So thank you for doing this.
It's an honor.
Now, are there other community announcements? Are there people who, I have one announcement myself, but are there other announcements from people that would like to address the community?
Dave Warren was going to.
Oh, that's right. Is Dave still here?
Yep.
Good.
Unmute yourself, David, and here you go.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think Diane has a piece to put up for you to look at. I just wanted to let people know, if you like this format, this Zoom sort of format, there's another meeting tomorrow night at 6:30. County and For Culture are planning on doing an art installation in Island Center Forest. This would be a permanent art. It's a series of art pieces, 15 art pieces that were designed for the Northgate Transit Station, and the Northgate Transit Station can no longer have them. They're redesigning, so they're going to move that sculpture into Island Center Forest. And so some of us were concerned. There was a Zoom meeting about a month ago in which there were 7 people participating, and one was King County, and one was For Culture, and one was the artist, and then there were 4 people from Vashon that were there to hear the presentation. This is a picture of the borrow pit, the western end of Island Center Forest, and those dots are where the art is going to go. If you want to flip to the next one, Diane. There's the kiosk, and there's one of the sculptures there. It's not actually there. This is proposed for where they would go. And you can just flip through the other 2. This can be quick. Here's the beginning of it. There's 15 of these. And so, some of the people felt like this might be better across the fence on into the transfer station, where we're waiting longer and longer to recycle. And a lot of people felt like going into the Island Center Forest, they're going in there to get away from man-made stuff, and to now start putting more stuff in there was a concern to them. So I wanted to let people know that decision is largely going to be made in a Zoom meeting tomorrow night at 6:30, where they'll take input from the community to see whether they're going to install this art. And I don't know if you have that part of it, Diane, with David's name. It's David Kimmett.
Hang on a sec. Oops. Yes, I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody to see.
That'd be great. And so if you contact Dave Kimmett in the next 20 hours and let him know that you'd like to participate in that meeting, we can get some Vashon input in that. And Dave Kimmett is a King County employee, and they're all their first name dot last name. So it's David.Kimmett, KIMMETT at kingcounty.gov. And so that's his email, and his phone number is 206-510-5668. And hopefully we can, through the chat or something, we can get that information to him. Thank you. That's all. I just want to let people know that meeting's happening tomorrow at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, David. And I had a it's a community council announcement. Last meeting, we voted on locating a site for the temporary noise monitor for airplane overflights. And we had a presentation done by David Vogel, and his committee had reviewed this. And basically, it took 4 years of study to find an appropriate site, which was the upper area in Winghaven Park. Now, we proposed that site to the Port of Seattle, and they had certain criteria that were very important to them. They went out to the site, they reviewed it, and they had a few concerns about the exact location that we had specified, but nearby, where the background noise is very comparable, is the entryway to the park. And the park is, I guess, monitored by John Afalter and Shelley Whitlock, who are members of our community council. And the port asked them if it would be possible to locate it just a little bit closer to their home for purposes of security and accessibility, and also in order to electrify it. So all of the criteria that the port was looking for is satisfied by an area that's almost adjacent to the site that had been selected by our committee. I mentioned this to David Vogel. He went out there, he reviewed the site, he did a lengthy review of the criteria, and he found it entirely satisfactory. So our location of a temporary noise monitor has basically been agreed to by the port, and I just wanted to bring that up. Now, our next meeting is going to be on November 6th. Oh, well, are there people that would have suggestions for topics for future meetings that you would like to talk about? Is there anyone here? You could put it in the chat right now if you'd like, if you have ideas for future meetings, or you could email it to the website as well. Our next meeting will be November 16th at 7 p.m. via WebEx. And at that point, we should have a new slate of directors. So thank you all for participating. And I'm really excited to see all the people that are running for office. It's great. At this point,
David, I do have one suggestion. This is Dan.
Hi, Dan.
I just want to remind people that so far we have 75 people registered to vote, and we'd love to have more people in the community. So please go to the VMICC.net website and register to vote in our council board election.
Thank you, Dan. Yes. And the more we can get, the better. Oh, just a second. Please announce the Vashon Town Hall. Oh, yes. There is a Zoom meeting on Thursday, and I believe, let's see, it's at 6 o'clock. Let me just check. It's at 6:30. There's a community service, excuse me, there's a town hall meeting, and there will be Zoom information available through the county. So Bong, are you still on the meeting? I'd love to have you say a few things.
I don't think he's here. No.
CB, I say a couple things. Oh, okay. I guess that was a few minutes ago. But in any event, there is a town hall. I have information too. There's an invite from John Taylor, and it's 6:30 to 9. The phone number for the Zoom meeting, if anyone wants to write that down, would be 253-215-8782. And then the password is 9074762461. Oh, excuse me, Bong is here. If we could just unmute him.
No.
Are you in on a phone number, Bong? Because I don't think we can see. If we could just unmute the phone numbers, I think that
I have sent a request to, they have to unmute themselves now, but
Okay.
I've sent a request to unmute them.
Bong, if you could unmute yourself, that would be great. And Bong Santo Domingo is one of our liaisons to the county. But he's having a hard time unmuting himself.
Maybe he could just use the chat function, possibly?
Yeah, Bong, could you make your statement through the chat function, or else if you could unmute yourself. I don't think we have your name listed, so you must be in as a phone number.
So David, I typed down those the phone number and the password into the chat function.
Great, I appreciate that. And are you keeping this chat
You bet.
Okay, and one thing I'd like to tell people too is if you see things in the chat that you want to keep for another day, all you have to do is copy and paste it to another location. So if there are phone numbers or anything like that, just copy and paste it. Oh, okay. And Kyle has the town hall information as well. He's got the link there. Great. Okay, Bong is on the phone. He's on a phone and he can hear me, but he can't unmute himself, I think, on the phone.
He can. I don't know if he knows how to.
Oh.
And I can't unmute him for some reason. I know. Maybe I'll just unmute everybody.
Yeah, if you could unmute everyone. Oh, it's 206-351-8071. That's it's muted, but I don't think we can unmute it.
Is it possible that on other formats they use *6 to unmute?
Oh, okay.
WebEx is the same.
That's a good point. I'm going to have to research that and find out people who call in what they do to unmute. I'll do that for our next meeting. Sorry, I don't know how to do that right now.
I just texted him that maybe he could try *6.
And
That's
I'm just gonna
suggestion, Bill.
I'll unmute everybody and see what happens.
Okay.
Good luck. Fingers crossed.
Oh.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I'm on the phone. That's why. And anyway, so I'm Bong Santo Domingo, your favorite King County government. That's you. I am the only government. We are the only government for Vashon. So anyway, we're having a town hall. So our annual town hall is going to be a Zoom type meeting. So it's going to be, well, we've done so many I think we've done 6 or 7 now. So it's a little learning curve, but people attended. So I hope you guys come out and express your concerns. By the way, I heard a comment about roads earlier. Yes, we do. For the big infrastructure stuff, it'll be great if we can get buy-in of the community. But for day-to-day stuff, we do respond to them. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions, guys?
Nope.
All right, David. Next
Okay.
time I'll be more attuned to this. I don't know what's going on. The mute button on my phone is right there. All you got to do
okay.
is press it. And I keep pressing it and nothing was happening. So, my bad.
Star 6 work?
I don't know. I did a star 6. So I don't know if that worked.
Must have worked. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but I heard you guys all on. Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Are we aware that the town hall meeting is at the same time the presidential debate is?
Well, thank you for telling us. I guess we're going to have to make a choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we scheduled this before the presidential debate.
Okay.
So, I know. We knew that. So coming into that, yep, it's going to come up. So
Thank God for recorders.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, hope you guys can make it. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And thank you all for participating in tonight's meeting. And I look forward to seeing you all next month. And when we can announce our board of directors. And the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, David. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, everyone.